it does not matter if anybody believes you or not. Like, it really doesn't, right? At the end of the day, we can believe people all we want, but people always end up disappointing us, right? Because they end up not doing the things that they say they're gonna do. So does it really matter when you're out to accomplish something and you want to create something, whether it's a very small task or a big one, if people believe in you or not? And I've seen time and time again so many examples of why you should not be attached to whether people believe in you or not, because at the end of the day, what ends up working out usually ends up being the vision you're being driven by, and or the message and the vision that God has instilled in you. Like, I have 100% faith in that and belief in that. The reason why this came up right now is I was on Instagram and I saw this reading about the founder of Coachella, and it's crazy. So this guy was going to Cal Poly Pomona to be a mechanical engineer. I don't know if it was Cal Poly Pomona, but he grew up in Pomona. Maybe I just made that connection. And he ended up dropping out. He was working at a festival type company who threw events for concerts and things like that. He dropped out of college. He was working for that company. He took over that company, and eventually he launched Coachella at some point. Right, a couple years later, eventually when he took over, the first year that he ran Coachella, he had about 35,000 people attend, and yet he lost $850,000 to the point where, and I don't know how accurate this is, right? But if it is accurate based on what I'm reading, it even said that it cost him his marriage. So I don't know if his wife left him because they went broke, or because he sold his house, or because maybe she thought he was crazy, or maybe because he couldn't take care of them because maybe he wasn't making enough money for that. I don't know the reason, but the point is that it cost him his marriage. They ended up splitting up from what it sounds like. And even at the point where he had lost $850,000 from his first concert, he continued going. He continued going year after year after year until he figured it out. Like, he had to find a way no matter what. Think about this. This was back in the early 90s, right? So this is about 30 years ago. 30 years ago. This guy's about in his mid 50s or early 60s right now. So for the last 30 years, he's been going after it almost every single year, or pretty much every single year, to figure out how to make Coachella one of the best music festivals of all time. And I've read somewhere in that there was a year where Coachella didn't happen, whether it was because financial turmoil, or he couldn't get artists, or whatever the case is, or maybe there was not enough financial money or things going on in the economy, or whatever the reason was, right? There was a year that he skipped, but it doesn't mean that he was stopping. It didn't mean that he was still trying to figure out. And so every single year he kept coming back, right? Getting new artists, just trying to make it the next big thing. And eventually he had a couple of years that went really good. He started getting a couple bands that were very popular at the time. Eventually had a year we had 110,000 people show up. They used to charge back in the day $50 a ticket per day to be able to go to this festival. Think about this back in the day, 30 years ago, like, what was Coachella? Think about something today that is not so popular, that is not that crazy, that seems kind of good, that you might know about it, but it's not really that well known, right? It seems kind of small. You might not think it's that big of a deal. That little company, that little event could end up becoming the next Coachella. And this is basically what happened, to the owner of Coachella. To go to the point now where, as of today, it is the highest grossing music festival of all time. It generated over $200 million in these last couple of weekends after pretty much, I would say, going on the verge of bankruptcy. Like, imagine having to sell your house, having to sell your car as well, losing your marriage, to now grossing $200 million. And look, I'm not going to get into the specifics about the marriage and why that happened, because that could have not had anything to do, with the fact that he was losing money, or the company just was not getting to that point, or maybe because he couldn't provide a living. It probably had nothing to do with that, right? It probably had something to do with a lot more personal things. I'm not going to say that even your wife is going to leave you because they don't believe in you. I have no freaking clue. I don't know if that's the reason. It doesn't say anything about that. But what I'm trying to get at is that this guy stuck it out. Can you imagine sticking something out for 30 years, right? Think about all the little things that we do in our lives. Something as simple as working out and eating healthy. Like, I'm gonna use that as an example because everybody in the entire world has the opportunity to eat healthy and work out, to live a longer, healthier, productive, efficient, just very thriving life. Right? Everybody does. And I would probably say 80% of the world has the information, has the knowledge, or access to the information, I should say, to know what it takes to do that. Because nowadays, the internet's almost around in every single part of the world, right? There's still a few places out there that are not quite there yet in terms of the way it is here in the US or in Europe or in China, different locations like that. But for the most part, I think it's about 80% now, right? And so imagine you have all this information, you know exactly what it takes to be healthy and be thriving and be able to live a long life, and yet you don't do it. Or you try to do it, you attempt to, and maybe you last one day, maybe you last 5 days, maybe you last a week or 2 weeks or a month, and then you just go back to your old habits, right? But you continuously, a lot of us at least, continuously keep trying to come back. You're trying to come back. I get to start again, which is crazy, which is beautiful that we get to start over and over and over again in anything that we want to do. But even for something like this, so many of us give up. Think about it. Like, how many people do you know who have given up on being healthy, right? Eating the right things and exercising, and they just end up living their lives overweight, sick, maybe end up dying young, maybe develop different diseases or different things like that, and then you just give up. Yet you have all the resources and the tools at your disposal. And then there's this guy who made Coachella what it was, still having the resources and the knowledge that's all existing out there, but he had to go out there and look for it. He built something from scratch, in a sense, that didn't really quite exist before, right? He had a vision of what that trying to create, and he went after it. Like, that is so much more difficult, in my opinion, than, you know, dealing with what we're dealing right now. And look, I'll say this too. Somebody who grew up very overweight and has had some health conditions and some eating disorders and a bit, I would say maybe not a bit, but of addiction when it comes to eating certain types of food, it is very difficult, and it requires a lot more than intellect and information, because intellect and information sometimes is not enough. A lot of times, most of the time maybe, it's not enough to make a difference when we are addicted to certain things. But even then, like, the will to just end up wanting to stop and not trying to figure it out, not trying to find a different way or different solution, right? I think most of us, if we end up sticking things out long enough, you eventually find out that there's a different way. For those people who are addicted to whether it's drugs or alcohol or food, if you stick it out long enough, you'll find out that there are different ways. There are more ways to how to get, you know, across that barrier. But I'm digressing again, going back to, you know, the whole Coachella thing. Like, it's just really cool scene, honestly. Like, not because this guy made $200 million, but just the fact that he was willing to stick it out. And there's so many stories, like there's hundreds of stories, probably even thousands of stories, probably millions of stories of people, whether they're entrepreneurs or athletes, anything you could possibly think of, who were in the gutter, had everything going against them, and yet they found a way to figure it out. And it's just cool every single time I see a different story like that, because, you know, I think these things happen all the time, and yet we like to believe that things are easy, that, you know, things are supposed to just be handed to us. But time and time again, it shows us that not everything is easy and not everything is difficult. Actually, I think most things are difficult, but you get to stick them out. And so it's a reminder that whatever that goal is, like, you get to stick to it no matter what happens, no matter what falls on your plate. I believe that most goals are achievable. And I say most because imagine trying to be an athlete. Like, if I tried to get into the NBA at an early age, there's no way I'm gonna make it to the NBA. Like, I'm 5'10". And look, there's also been professional NBA players who are 5'10" who've made it, but that's like one out of, I don't even know, 100 million, a billion. Like, it is so rare. I'm digressing again when it comes to that, but like, for the most part, most goals are achievable as long as you're willing to stick them out. And so just a reminder, don't give up. You will figure it out. And that is where I'll leave it. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys ever experienced anything like that, even if it's a small goal that you were just like, you know what, man, I think I'm gonna give up on this, and then you end up saying like, you know what, let me try again and again and again, and then you eventually you're like, oh man, I actually made it happen. That's all I got for today. See you guys.